ప్రేమ స్వరూపులారా,
embodiments of love.
ప్రాచీన కాలం నుండి ఈ హృదయాన్ని పవిత్రంగా గావించుకుంటూ వచ్చారు పవిత్రమైనటువంటి యొక్క స్త్రీలు.
Women from time immemorial have tried to keep up this purity of the heart.
గత జీవుడకు పతిని బ్రతికించి ఎముగల్చే సావిత్రి భారత సాధ్విగాదే. చచ్చినటువంటి యొక్క భర్తను బ్రతికించినటువంటి స్త్రీలు ఉన్నారు, కానీ చచ్చినటువంటి భార్యను బ్రతికించినటువంటి పురుషుడు ఎక్కడా కనిపించడం లేదు. ఏ చరిత్రలో కూడా మనకు తెలియదు.
In the whole of history, there have been women who brought back like Savitri dead husbands to life, but there is not a single example of a man who has brought back to life a dead wife.
ఈనాడు ఆధునిక యుగంక మార్గం చేత అనేక రకమైనటువంటి యొక్క చర్యలు ఆధునికంగానే చేరిపోతున్నాయి.
Because of the changes of this modern world, all newfangled thoughts,
సద్భావములకు, సచ్చర్యలకు, సచ్చింతనలకు చక్కని అవకాశమే కనిపించడం లేదు.
There is no place whatsoever for good thoughts, for good actions, for any type of good deeds.
కనుక ఈనాడు స్త్రీలకు ఈ పవిత్రమైనటువంటి యొక్క భావనలు అభివృద్ధి పరచుకోవాలి. దీనికి సత్యసాయి సంస్థలని, సత్యసాయి మహిళా విభాగములని దీనికి ఏర్పరిచి ఈ సత్సంగ ప్రభావాన్ని జగమునకు చాటే నిమిత్తమై దీనికి ఏర్పరుస్తూ వచ్చాం.
For the purpose of increasing the recognition of these values, and then it is the woman who should uphold it, and so there are various organizations of Sri Satya Sai like Mahila Vibhag and so many other type of things.
కనుకనే స్త్రీలు కూడినప్పుడే జగత్తంతా కూడాను ఒక పవిత్రమైనటువంటి దేశంగా రూపొందుతుంది.
It's only when the women get together that the whole nation becomes something exemplary.
ఈ స్త్రీల యొక్క సంఘము ఎంతనో గొప్ప విలువను సంపాదించింది.
So this society of women lends it a lot of dignity.
ఇటువంటి స్త్రీల యొక్క తత్వమును ఈనాటి పురుషులు కూడాను గుర్తించడానికి ప్రయత్నించడం లేదు.
So men should make an effort to understand this value in women.
దేశమును కూడాను హస్తగతము గావించుకునేటువంటి శక్తి కలిగినటువంటి స్త్రీలు ఈ స్త్రీలు.
These women are those who can really do such things in the world.
స్త్రీలు కేవలం సామాన్యమైనటువంటి యొక్క బానిసలుగా భావిస్తున్నారు అనేక మంది పురుషులు.
Men think that women are just subordinate to them.
కాదు కాదు,
it's not so.
వారు తలంచినప్పుడు జగత్తునే ఒక మూట మాదిరి కట్టగలరు.
When they just think they can just bundle up the world.
అటువంటి శక్తి సామర్థ్యములు కలిగినటువంటి స్త్రీలను మనం ఈనాడు చులకన చేయటం చేతనే మన గతి ఈ విధంగా మారిపోతున్నది.
It's because we are belittling such women who can do such tremendous tasks. The world has come to this state today.
స్త్రీలు సాధించలేనిటువంటిది లేదు లోకంలో.
There is nothing that a woman cannot achieve.
అలాంటి స్త్రీల యొక్క తత్వమును మనం దినము కూడాను గుర్తించి వారికి తగినటువంటి ఉత్సాహమును కూడాను కల్పించి వారికి తగినటువంటి సమాజం లోపల తోడ్పాటు గావించాలి.
Recognizing this quality in woman, we will have to give her support and try to encourage her and see that she becomes the pillar in society.
అలాంటి ఎంకరేజ్మెంట్ ఏ మాత్రము చేయటం లేదు స్త్రీలకు.
The women do not get encouragement at all.
ఏదైనా ఒక సత్సంగంలో ప్రవేశించినారా అంటే ఈ పురుషులకు దానిపైన కోపం కలుగుతుండేది.
If they go to satsang, the men become angry.
వారి స్వార్థము, వారి స్వప్రయోజనముకి మాత్రమే ప్రయత్నిస్తున్నారు, కానీ స్త్రీల వల్ల జగత్తునికి ఎంత ఉపకారం కలుగుతుంది, ఎంత పవిత్రమైనటువంటి మార్గం ఏర్పడుతుంది అనేటువంటి సత్యాన్ని వారు గుర్తించుకోలేకపోతున్నారు.
They are only thinking of their own selfishness or the self-comfort. They are not able to realize that through women alone that society can progress into
చాలా వరకు స్త్రీల యందు స్వార్థరహితమైనటువంటి హృదయం ఉంటుంటుంది.
Women have got a heart which is devoid of selfishness.
దయా ప్రేమల చేత వాళ్ళ హృదయం నిండి ఉంటుంది.
Their heart is full of compassion and kindness.
పిల్లలను పోషించేటువంటి విషయం లోపల ఎంతనో జాగ్రత్తగా ఉంటుంటారు.
In bringing up their children, they are so careful.
ఒక్క క్షణమైన కూడా భర్త సహించుకోలేడు.
Even one moment the husband cannot
కానీ ఆ
tolerate it.
పిల్లలను పోషించేటువంటి విధానంలో రాత్రింపగలు కూడాను స్త్రీలు ఎంతనో పాటుపడుతుంటారు.
Night and day the woman will strive to look after her child.
ఆ పిల్లల యొక్క ప్రవర్తన కోసం ఎన్నో విధమైనటువంటి యొక్క తోడ్పాటు కూడా చేస్తుంటారు.
And she will always support the child in many of its actions and thoughts.
ఈనాటి చదువుల వల్ల, ఈనాటి విద్యా విధానముల వల్ల ఆ పిల్లల యొక్క పరిస్థితులు క్రమక్రమేణా మాలిన్యమైపోతున్నది.
Today, because of this modern education, the children are getting little degraded.
పూర్వమంతా పిల్లలకి ఏదైనా అక్షర స్వీకారం చేయాలనుకుంటుంటే
In the early days, when a child had to be
ఆ
initiated
స్త్రీల
in
యొక్క హృదయం
letters,
నుంచి ఓం నమః శివాయ, ఓం నమో నారాయణాయ అని చెప్పేటువంటి వారు.
and the women would teach the child, say Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Narayana.
ఆ యొక్క ప్రేరణ చేతనే ఆ పిల్లల యొక్క హృదయాలు క్రమక్రమేణా హృదయంలో చిత్రించుకొని పోతూ వచ్చాయి.
And with this type of training that the children's hearts would expand.
ఈనాటి ఆధునిక యుగం యొక్క చదువులు ఏ రీతిగా ఉన్నాయి?
What is the type of modern education
వాళ్ళకి
today?
అక్షర స్వీకారం చేయాలనుకుంటే,
If they want to be
వాళ్ళకి చిన్న
initiated,
చిన్న బుక్కులు చదివించాలంటే
if they have to read small books,
తల్లిదండ్రులు కూడా ఎలాంటి పుస్తకాలు తెప్పిస్తున్నారు?
how do the parents, what type of books do they read?
బ్లాక్ షీప్ అంటారు. ఇది వాళ్ళకి నేర్పించేటువంటిది.
So this is what they teach them. Baba, black sheep.
నా-
With that divine discourse and Sai humor, my pranams at the lotus feet of my Guru Sri Satya Sai Baba. Welcome everyone to our second Sai Illumination series with the theme throughout will be Women are the Beacons of Light. We are indeed grateful to Swami for giving us this opportunity to hear established sisters from our region who have spearheaded several roles in their lives as daughters, mothers, sisters, spouses, teachers, and in our Satya Sai International Organization as well. This Sai Illumination series is not only an inspiring session held every other month, it is also a satsang for all of us to come together in his name to listen and to imbibe Bhagavan's teachings through the wonderful established Sai sisters. I'm sure in each and every Sai Illumination satsang, we will gather more and more understanding of Swami's teachings and how he would like all the sisters to be. Swami stated that from ancient times, the feminine aspect of the divine has to be worshipped in various ways. The Veda declares where women are honored and esteemed, their divinity is present with all efficiency. Divine Discourses, November 19th, 1995. With this, few housekeeping rules. Please mute yourselves and on your videos if possible. We will take questions at the end if there is time for our guest speaker. If not, please WhatsApp or email your options. The email ID will be provided at the end. Now I call upon our regional Vice President, Sister Sandhya, to introduce our guest speaker. Sairam.
Sairam. My humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. Thank you, Sister Pavitra. It's my pleasure to introduce Sister Prema Rao. Sister Prema has undergraduate and graduate degrees in the life sciences and experience as a research scientist in the biomedical device industry with numerous publications and patents to her credit. With divine inspiration from Swami, she changed her field and pursued a PhD in psychology. Dr. Prema Rao is the founder of a non-profit, Akila Health, which provides holistic health education to underserved women. Sister Prema has been attending Central San Jose Sai Center in Northern California for the past 29 years. She is grateful to have had opportunities to teach SSE, coordinate events, activities, and serve in officer roles at the center and regional levels. She was the past regional devotion coordinator and the regional president of Region 7. Currently, Sister Prema is a member of the SSSIO Archival Committee, leads the national website content team, and serves as a national media coordinator. I have known Sister Prema from the time I started coming. I was new to the organization and was a young adult, and I've got several opportunities to work and learn so much from her. She works so meticulously. Once she's part of any event, whatever she takes, she works so meticulously, and I've learned how to go very close to detail. So I'm so happy and very looking forward to this talk, and yeah, very excited. Welcome, Sister Prema. Sairam.
With love, reverence, and gratitude, utmost gratitude, I offer myself and this talk at the lotus feet of our beloved, omnipresent Swami. Swami, please speak through me to make your devotees happy. Sai Ram, everyone. Sai Ram. I am so humbled and honored to be here. Sandhya, thank you for introducing me and the kind words. Pavitra, thank you for inviting me to this forum. I'm not usually the one who shares experiences, but this was a wonderful journey the past few weeks to reminisce about how Swami has influenced me in my life. And it was a beautiful opportunity, so I thank you for that. And I'll attempt to share some as we go on. So as was mentioned, the topic of today's talk is Women Are the Beacon Lights. And if we go to define what is a beacon we think about as the lighthouse, which offers a signal or a warning or acts as a guide for people. And in terms of human terms, we can think about people serving as beacons to inspire or encourage. You know, obviously Swami calls us Divya Atma Swarupalaras. We are divine light. We are light itself. So we can serve as the beacons. I know I have been impressed with other people, other Sai sisters, and I use them as beacons. But I think we all agree that Swami is our ultimate beacon of light. And that's in fact why he is here. He is here to guide us, to take us back to our original nature, to understand our divinity, to recognize and identify with that. Why are we here? What is the cause of our birth? Swami says there are 3 reasons for man to be born. Sorry, I'll just adjust this a little. There are 3 reasons for man to be born. One is sin. The second is an unfulfilled desire or some experience. And the third is the lack of knowledge or ignorance. So here, ignorance means not knowing who we really are. I'm not able to advance for some reason, but here it is. So if we put it in a nutshell, it's karma that brings us back, desire, even if it's a little unfulfilled desire that brings us back, but ultimately it's the ignorance of who we are. And that's what the Sai organization is all about, to help us understand our own innate divinity, right? I just wanted to use this analogy. Let's say there is a beacon, which you see on the left. If the glass is very transparent, whatever light is inside will be transmitted very clearly. But on the right, you see some blemishes, some impediments. So in that case, the light is not going to be transmitted as much. So in our own lives, we can think with the samskaras as a backdrop, or whatever the karmas, the desires, or the ignorance, the level of ignorance can cause that impediment so that the light does not shine through. So we are all in a life school. We all come to this, we are born and we are put into this life school with a specific curriculum, specific lesson plans of what we have to do, with the ultimate goal that we will realize who we really are. And we each have a path, a unique path. There might be ups and downs at different stages in our lives. We're supposed to meet with some people, interact with such situations, and so on and so forth. But the goal is the same for all of them, which is to realize who we are. So here you see on the left, the light is dimmed a little because there are impediments. But once you purify, it is bright and shining bright, as in the right. So every one of us has something unique, which is how we got to know of Swami. Some have gotten to know through parents, through family, and so on and so forth. I'll just share a bit of how I came to know of Swami. So my parents emigrated when I was in 7th grade, and I, along with my sister, stayed back for a couple of years. And one year we stayed in a boarding school in Sandur. It's in Karnataka. And this is a picture I got out of the internet, but this is actually the open air theater that they had in Sandur. And I've superimposed Swami there because that's how he was when I first saw him. He had come to, the Maharani of Sandur had invited him, and he had come to our function. So he is sitting there right in the middle, and you see the ledge on the right. That's the stage, and I was on the stage, and I was playing a part of Bhudevi that day, and I was front and center, and I could have clear vision of Swami that day. That was my introduction to Swami. And after that, we were all ushered. I was in 9th grade at the time, ushered into a room and got Pad Namaskar, but I did not understand the value of it at that time. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity at the beginning itself. I wanted to put this because it means a lot to me. What Albert Einstein said was, I want to go know God's thoughts. The rest are all details. So the rest of the talk is going to be about what Swami thinks about this particular topic, because that's the ultimate guide for us. Oops. Swami, what does he think about the beacon light? He says, bear in mind what Swami has said and regard Swami's words as a beacon light for your lives. So it's his words that are of value. He also says, for the 3 worlds, Dharma is the beacon light. So these are the 2 guideposts for my talk, for the rest of the talk. So when I was talking to Pavitra, I was asking her, what are some of the questions? What is the topic that we should talk? What should we focus on? And she was saying that many people have questions about dharma of being a woman and the different roles that we play. So I've listed some of the roles here, and obviously there are many more that we take on. Some of the major ones, the daughter, wife, mother, education, what kind of education can we have, job, service, especially in the SSSIO organization, because as Pavitra said, the same people are working very hard, and what is the right thing to do? And then I've added a couple more. The one self with the small s is, our body, mind. And as women, there has to be self-care, otherwise we burn out. And then the other one, which is the bigger self, with the capital S, is of course our divine self. That is the ultimate goal that we are after. So what I will do is I'll go with each one of the, well, most of them, and describe what Swami has said and interlace it with some of my experiences. So we'll take the ones in the blue, daughter, wife, and mother first. For daughter, what does he say? Your mother and father are the first people whom you should regard as God. Neglecting your mother and father, even if you spend all your time in God's worship, it becomes futile. So you see, he comes and brings it back to dharma again. It's the duty that is most paramount. He has also said that the debt we owe our parents, especially our mothers, are immense. And, you know, when you think about it, they gave birth to us to give us the opportunity to rise above this birth and death cycle. So that is a huge gratitude that we owe them. And that's what I try to remember. Wife, we literally could have a whole workshop on each of these roles, I think a breakout session and so on, but I'm just touching upon each one. Wife, this particular one has special significance because this is the last discourse that Swami ever gave, which was in 2010. It was at the convocation event. I happened to be there, so it's etched in my mind. So people were talking. In fact, he says, you all want me to talk about something about education, but I'm not going to talk about the present system of education. That's what he said. Instead, he spoke about women, like I think I remember Savitri, and he talked about marriage and wife. And this is what he had to say, one of the things. When the wife follows her husband and the husband follows the wife, and both lead a life of harmony, the entire country will attain peace and prosperity. So you notice it's not just the wife following the husband, it's the husband also following the wife. It's very liberal. And then he goes on to say, if there's no unity and harmony between husband and wife, there's no use undertaking spiritual practices like chanting and meditation. So again, he brings us back to our dharma. The third one, which we were going to explore, was mother. And he has a lot of things to say about motherhood. It is in her role as a mother that there is the highest expression of a woman's strength. And this could be mother in the biological sense or people who you are mothering. But for me, especially, this role of a mother has had a lot of impact on my life and whatever I have done. And in fact, understanding about Swami, first learning about his teaching was started way back a long time ago. It was when I was pregnant, and I came across actually this little book. It's a very tiny book. It's a tiny book here. Somebody gave it to me. I don't even know how I got it. And I literally can't even read the fine print now. But when I was pregnant, I used to read that every day, one quote. And that's how I got introduced to Swami's teachings. And then we moved to California, and my son was 4 years old. And at that time, I was looking for a community for my child, for us to belong to. A spiritual community, like-minded community. That's how I came across San Jose Center. And then we moved to Central San Jose Center. We started going to Central San Jose Center. And at that time, my daughter was 4 and she was starting SSE. She didn't feel comfortable being in SSE at the time. It was a mix of lots of older kids too. So I sat in the classes. And as I sat in, I understood more of the teachings and I helped here and there. And pretty soon the center was expanding and there was a need for a teacher. So then I went and got the teacher training, and that's how I got into the organization. So being exposed to the teachings, going to a center, going to the organization are all driven by my role as a mother in this case. Also, when we first started going to the center, being part of the Sai Center, we also went to Prashanti Nilayam, usually at Christmas time. And this was a wonderful thing because the overseas devotees got to be part of a program, Christmas program, and also choir. So I'll narrate a few things because it was a very special time those days. And I'll narrate some things, events that happened in the Purna Chandra Hall. I think many of you have been there, the Purna Chandra Hall, which is right next to Sai Kulwant Hall. It's a huge hall. And what I wanted to mention was the children got to take part in it. My son was in some acting or tableau or something like that. My daughter was in the dance. And the parents also could participate. We could be coaches, or we could be helping with the dance, or we could do the props. So I happened to one year be part of the props team. And in that props team, at that particular year, we were asked to create a setting for an American teenager's room. And in that part of it, there was this dresser. And the dresser, there were other things that needed to be done, but I'm going to focus on this dresser. And then there was supposed to be a currency note that was to be put on dresser. Now you can imagine the Purna Chandra Hall is so huge, and this dresser is a small thing, and that currency note is going to be a small thing. But yet, one of the people who was working on this, she was a young woman from Europe. She was so meticulous and detailed about how the currency note should look like. And as I mentioned, it's a huge hall. Nobody's going to look at it, but she knew what it should look like. And she spent hours making it happen. And it was very admirable to see how much devotion she had. The next day, Swami comes and he gives her an actual currency, the same thing that she was drawing. So you see, Sandhya, that's where I got to know and appreciate the value of detail. Swami knows everything, whether anybody realizes or not. The inner Swami and Swami knows and understands. And it's not only in the work that we do in the worldly sense, but it's also in understanding things. Like, for example, if we read Swami's quote and it doesn't make sense to us, because we might have some blockages in understanding, go deeper yet. Go deeper and understand from different facets. So that's the kind of lesson, I learned from that experience. Another time, actually I have to say, Purna Chandra Hall, this whole Christmas thing was very exciting. Now, we used to be there for a few days, and immediately we land in India, of course, because their vacations are very short. So we come only very close to that Christmas time. We land in India, we are in a different climate, we're in a different food situation, and people from all over the world are there too, bringing all sorts of wonderful germs and stuff. So falling sick was normal there. And one year, my daughter fell sick, and I was at the prop. I think I was helping with the prop. So we were all supposed to congregate in Purna Chandra. Oh, that's what it is. With Purna Chandra Hall, it's a magical place because Swami used to come there and give, just be with us, and he used to interact. And it was much more lighthearted than it was in Sai Kulwant Hall because it was a smaller crowd. So we were all supposed to be there at a certain time, but because my daughter was sick, I went out to the store outside the ashram to get medicine and groceries and things like that. She was with my mom at home, and I was getting late. I was coming down the main street, in Prashanti ashram, and then I was thinking, oh, I'm just passing by Purna Chandra Hall. I wish I could go there. But then I went and gave the medicine and food to my daughter. And then I said, I still want to go there. And I hadn't bathed even. In those days, we had to have immersion heater and all that stuff. But I knew if I went through all that, I'm not going to make it So I took a chance and I came. I saw the doors were closed, but still I wanted to go. And usually they didn't open the doors, those huge garage door things. But that day they opened it. And I was not in the best shape. I hadn't bathed, I told you. They opened it and I find myself standing there in Purnachandra Hall. Everybody else was seated except for me, and Swami was standing there too. And it was beautiful. And I cannot forget that picture in my blue salwar kameez, just staring at Swami. And it was so beautiful. And I understood, he understands the backstory of everything. And he was compassionate and kind, and he allowed me to be in his presence despite not being perfect or whatever. So that was another lesson that was valuable. And another time, I fell ill. Another year, I fell ill, and my son was in the play. And Swami used to come and interact with the boys. And one day he gave Vibhuti to one of the boys because he was not feeling well. He materialized Vibhuti and gave it to him. And because the program was a few days away, he wanted to heal him. So my son is sitting there saying, my mom is not well. Vibhuti, he asks. So Swami says, but she's not actor. That's what he said. And, of course, I was not an actor, but I took it even more deeper and said, I'm glad he understands I'm sincere. I hope I interpreted it right. So those were magical times, I have to tell you. Okay, let's go on to the yellow ones, the education, job, and service. Again, we could talk a lot about it, but for this talk, we're going to just focus on one or two quotes for each of these topics. So obviously, we all know Swami emphasizes education. He says the end of education is character. Educated women are really the promoters of Dharma for the whole world. And I think we all value that education. He says, it is not my view that women should not get educated. They should have an education. You may also take up jobs, but you should live up to the obligations and the glory of womanhood. I put this because sometimes people think people in the secular world think, okay, he's wanting old time values and so on and so forth. But I think these are the significant values that are going to be sustaining. And I think you all know he holds us in high esteem, the glory of womanhood, by what he said, we have 7 virtues, whereas the men have 3. So he has a high expectation of us. Regarding job, he says, in the modern world, it is necessary for women to share the burden of maintaining the family with their husbands. So women should also pursue studies as much as possible and take up suitable jobs to share the burden of the family. This is very practical. If needed, do that. And then he puts boundary conditions around this. There's nothing wrong in going for a job, but the woman must take care of their home first. Only then they should look for a job. So it's a lot of balancing act that we are asked to do. But the good thing is he's the beacon of light. So he helps us every step of the way. And the last item was service. And frankly, I think it's the SSSIO organization and this in the center that I go to. I've been so impressed with all the dedication that people have to service that it's inspirational. And one of the things that really appealed to me as well is with the Sai Satcharita. If you have read it, Shirdi Baba has a conversation with Nana Sahib Chandorkar. He's explaining a verse from Gita. And this particular verse talks about seva. And this is what he had to say. Seva is not rendering service, retaining still the feeling that one is free to offer or refuse service. One must feel that he is not the master of the body, that the body is Guru's and exists merely to render service unto him. So this is beautiful because it takes away the body identification, which is what we are trying to do. Okay, service in the organization. Since it's a, our Central San Jose has plenty of activities, a very rich program. But since it's a regional event, I'm just focusing on the regional activities that we have. With Swami's grace, I've had the opportunity to work on each of these events, leading each of these events. I will just talk about the women's mini retreat because that did have a very transformative effect on all of these events too, in their own way. And the best part is we always feel Swami is with us when we do them. The stress is less. With the women's mini retreat, I was part of the first organizing committee. And I remember Holly had prepared a booklet of ladies' discourses. And she had just put a few discourses together, but it's all what Swami is talking about women. And just before that, also, I was wondering what I should do. I was working full time and so on and so forth. But having read many of the discourses and the previous quote that I mentioned, my husband was traveling a lot that time. We started to build a house. I had 2 children, and at that time I contemplated, it's time to step back a little bit, and I did quit my job at that time. So I attribute it to this introspection through this. And some quote like this, I think, which impacted me. The home is a beacon which illumines the world and sustains it. Women should realize that irrespective of their education or position, their foremost obligation is to protect the home. So it was very impactful for me. Now, in terms of the SSSIO organization, I'm also very, very grateful for having the opportunity to work on many of these roles. And I put this out because each one has taught me a lot. In the center, I've been working, the yellow ones are the center SSC teacher, SSC coordinator, and vice president. And in fact, for a few years, I kept coming back as an SSC coordinator. And the reason was very simple. Whenever I was nominated, especially if it was for multiple positions, I would put chits on Swami's padukas, and whatever came, I blindly accepted. So I kept coming back in that role. I guess Swami knew I had to learn some things there. But I'll tell you a little bit about the SSC teacher role later. But even then, sometimes Swami puts me in positions which I don't quite understand logically, like the regional devotion coordinator. What I went through that time was, I had been in SSC for 10 years or whatever. And then I was always involved with the service projects in the women's mini retreat. But devotion is not something I gravitated towards. A study circle was something I was very interested in. But the traditional ones like the bhajan, I was not one that had been doing much work in that. So I was very, very surprised, but humbled, and it was time to surrender to Swami to guide me how. And that happened to be the time when it was awesome learning and growth and beautiful experiences, and through which came out bhajan workshops and the GAB, and GAB was more streamlined, and eye-to-eye transformation, and multi-faith initiative. So all that was Swami's inspiration to bring about, because I held close to his feet. And then currently I'm working, and that's another thing, currently I'm working on those IT content and national media and social media. I'm not one for social media, but Swami puts me in that position. Just stretch beyond your comfort zone. But this is an exciting one though, because 5 days a week, we post on Facebook and Instagram, and these are all Swami's teachings, and I get to work with wonderful young adult people who are so talented and wise too. they come up with these beautiful graphics. So it's, again, he comes back to the teachings again. What is his teaching? What is his teaching? The archival committee is a beautiful one too. It's videotaping people who've had physical interaction with Swami. So it puts me very close to what Swami, it puts me in his orbit in these ways. That's how I look at it. I want to go over the transformation that I got with one of the roles, the SSE teacher, for example. So after I quit, after a few years, I was still teaching SSE in Central San Jose. And I was teaching group 3 at the time. And one day, and I used to have very profound dreams those days, very game-changing. And this was one of those. He comes in my dream and says, oops. There must be. I think this is the drum roll equivalent, okay? Almost there. He says, teach the children about koshas. That's all he says. And I remember him saying this. And I say, what is this? I had heard about koshas in the teacher's training. Not too much though, some amount. But that obviously when Swami says something, it has so much of gravity, so much of meaning. So immediately went and researched as much as I could. And that led me to the Ayurveda, understanding about the Ayurveda. And then that led me to doing an intern to find out if I wanted to switch from biomedical device industry to holistic health. It's a totally different ballgame. But, but along the way, there was paving because the place where I started working, there was a thing called Plane Tree Library, which is full of these kind of information. So I got to experience and learn, like it was a beautiful, beautiful time. And that led me to change my field and do my PhD. Because initially I had been in a PhD program for biochemistry, but he changed my whole thing. So that's what led me to change my field. Now with the koshas, it is so fundamental. In the Upanishads, it's taught about the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya as a means towards self-realization. So it's a very fundamental thing. So for me, it's like a mantra. It is a. I feel he has bestowed a mantra for me to contemplate and understand, go dig deeper and deeper. And then when I was doing my PhD, I was wondering what I should be doing with that. And at first I thought, okay, it makes sense. Research makes sense to mix both of the things. East and West makes sense. But actually, the world was not open for that yet. Ayurvedic physicians were still getting licensed and so on and so forth. But then when I really, really prayed to Swami, he guided me to form this nonprofit called Akila Health. And that melds everything what I worked in Swami's organization, because we have created curriculum which follows the SSE curriculum that we, the structure of the lesson plan, we follow that. And it's very holistic. And it's about teaching about holistic self-care to the underserved population. So to people in the shelters, women, and we focus only on women in the shelters. So he has made such a huge change in my education and my career. And to tie it all to this talk right now, when I look at it, it ties in beautifully as well. Because he says, 5 sheets encase the Atma and hide its splendor. from revealing itself. Make all these pure and shining. So this is our objective, to go through each koshas, overcome, and to make us ourselves purified so we can be shining in our innate divinity. So we have come to this level now. We finished some of them. I think we don't have too much time for both the self. So we'll just focus on the bigger self, because that's the ultimate goal. So Swami keeps it very clear, makes it very simple and clear. Man has a duty to himself, recognizing that he is divine and nothing else. And just in case we are confused about our role, women too have the right to know that they are the Atma, encased in human form. And they too can tap the strength, the joy, and the peace that Atma holds. Inculcate in them the prayer habit that will cleanse the mind of all impurities and make God shine in his full splendor. So that's the whole objective of what we were talking about with the beacon light, and purifying ourselves so that the innate light spreads. So I leave with this quote, where once again, he talks about the beacon light. Learn to lead a life of righteousness, truth, love, and beauty. Become beacon lights for the world. So he has high hopes for us, high expectations of us. And if we weren't able to meet it, he wouldn't tell us to do it. So I think it's our duty to follow. So with that, I am eternally grateful to our dear Swami. He has shown his omnipresence, omnipotence, all-powerful, omniscience, all-knowing through my life. And he knows exactly what I need. And he surprises me at times with the things that he asks me to do. But I know it is the right thing for me in my lesson plan, in my path. So I consider him my eternal companion, and I'm eternally grateful to him. And I thank you all for listening and giving me the time. So I think we can open up, I guess, for some questions if there are any. Thank you. Sairam.
Sairam, Sister Prema. If you would like to ask questions, you may unmute and ask at this time. Maybe the IT, can you please put it in a grid view so that we can see everyone? So I'll ask the first question, Sister Prema. In your taking up roles in the SSSIO organization, have you ever felt like times where you were not paying attention to the family or your work, where you were more engrossed in doing Swami Seva? And at that moment, how did he guide you? And how did he give you the strength and the wisdom to do his work? And obviously, we know that everything is his work, but when we do his work, that ultimately everything in the life of ours is taken care of.
Yeah, I think it's about balance. I think that's what we are trying to do all the time. I think for me personally, it's about planning, I guess. And another thing I would say is checking my desires. What am I working on? What is it? Is that worth it? As you said, and as Swami has said, family comes first. That is our primary role. So for me to do organizational work, the other things have to be taken care of also, because that's what he rewards. And sometimes I think what it comes down to in my life, I feel it's that self-care that gets compromised. And, and then you have to do that at another time so that you can get the oxygen to go on. It's like what they say, put your mask on first before you put on others.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that will ask one has question? You can unmute and ask. Or even type in the chat box too.
Saram, Sister Prema, this is a wonderful talk. Thank you for this. We knew some of your stories as well. This is the time of selection for many centers. New folks are being selected. What would be your kind advice for people to take up the roles and be part of the organization?
I would say just dive in. I told you that I truly feel that working in the organization, can you imagine it is God that we are working with and for? And it's an awesome chance. As I mentioned to you, whenever I was nominated, I literally put chits and took whatever he told me to do. I think it's, as I went through, it's extremely rewarding, and we don't even know what the rewards are at this point. I think it's going to our ultimate goal. It helps immensely. So I would say just forget about your impediments and just dive in fully. And Swami is wonderful because he remembers what you do. I mean, of course, he knows everything. He's omniscience. I just wanted to relate something. At the national conference for women in New Jersey before COVID, I was asked to do something for financial planning. Now, I have no background in financial planning. All I did was, for my family, I figured out what our finances are, what our retirement should be, and so on. And it was between my husband and wife, that's it. But he knows that. And he's expecting me to put it for financial planning workshop. So he knows what we need to do, what we are. So just say yes. Just say yes. It's that the letter that we have read before, when you said yes to me. Yeah, it's a beautiful one. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we can go for one more question. Please ask.
Hi, sister. This is Sailaja from Prema Sai Center. I would like to ask a question. So when you were doing these roles, how did you come up with new creative ways, especially when you have joined as a new officer in Sai Centers? Any suggestions you would like to add? As you just mentioned, Swami is the ultimate one to help us, give us those good thoughts. But then how did you come up with any creative ideas in the centers?
Yeah. I think first you have to understand what it is that you're in. Now, if you're an SSE, you have to understand who you are serving. And second thing is, what does Swami say about that? And I would say, the word marinate, it's like, let it sit with you. Let it sit with you. And when you're silent, when you're meditating, it'll come up. And ideas come out of the blue. And those are the best ideas because they are not rational. They're not from the head, but it's from the heart. But I think the intention is what is the primary motivation. Does that make sense, Shailaja?
Yes, sister. Thank you.
Well, with that, I would like to thank you, Sister Prema Rao, for that inspiring speech. You touched upon all the roles that sisters play, and with your personal stories, and guidance from Swami, you have helped us expand our perspective in our role in the society and in the Sai organization as well. And thank you once again for that inspiring satsang. And I'm sure each one of us are taking in that guidance from you today. With that, few closing remarks. We will be having our next Sai Illumination series in February of 2023. And we are also planning for the Women's Mini Retreat in March 2023. So we hope that more of you will join the committee and be part of the planning. And please do fill out the survey that is sent out in the regional bulletin. And thank you. And let's end with Om and Tri Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Jai Sai Ram, and thank you, everyone.
Hi, Ram.